afternoon, everyone. At least I know I don't need to test the microphone, it works. Your Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General, Honourable Ministers, Excellencies, dear colleagues and dear friends, to everyone in the room this afternoon and online, a very warm welcome to the 8th Commonwealth Debate on Sport and Sustainable Development. My name's Hitesh Patel. I've got the privilege of being the Executive Director of the Sport for Development Coalition. For those of you that don't know, the Coalition is a UK-based organisation. We number over 400 organisations who all exist to use sport and physical activity for social good. But it's also my honour this afternoon to serve as your MC and moderator for this important debate, of which I shall say a bit more shortly. But it is a pleasure to be able to do this again in a hybrid format and to see so many of you here. But before we go any further, I should set out a few house rules, which I should make you aware of. Firstly, there's not going to be a fire drill this afternoon, so if there is an evacuation, the assembly point is located in the garden on the northwest lawn. Please follow instructions given by fire wardens and reception staff in that unlikely scenario. And in terms of the debate today, please do share news about the event on your social media channels, and please use the hashtag Commonwealth SDP. But back to the matter at hand. This is a great opportunity to put a spotlight on sport and increase the recognition of the contribution sport can make to some of society's most pressing issues. Assembled guests, could you join me in welcoming the Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Dr. Arjun Sudhu, who is going to provide us with some opening remarks. Deputy Secretary General.
Thank you. The problem with microphone is that it gives away your height. Anyway. Excellencies, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, who's also our Special Envoy for Youth, the Secretary Generals, Special Envoy for Sports Enterprise and Development, Chris Jenkins, who's the President of the Commonwealth Games Federation, and other distinguished guests, debate adjudicators, debate teams, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this 8th annual Commonwealth Debate on Sport and Sustainable Development. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate event commemorates the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace, which takes place annually on the 6th of April. The global theme for this year, 2024, is Sport for the Promotion of Peace and Inclusive Societies. Each year, this event offers a platform for Commonwealth senior ministers, government officials, athletes, academics, sports advocates, representatives from the Commonwealth accredited organizations, and of course, young people, to discuss sports-related matters in honor of this very important day. In this year's event, 2 teams will debate the motion that artificial intelligence is the answer to accelerating the power of sport in order to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Indeed, a very interesting themes. This motion is perfectly aligned with the Secretary General's Patricia Scotland's vision in seeking to harness the power of AI for the benefit of our Commonwealth citizens, especially our young people. Last September, in the wings of the United Nations General Assembly, the Secretary General launched the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium, which we call the CAIC. Indeed, the CAIC includes global tech firms, world-leading research institutions, non-profit organizations, and Commonwealth member countries who have stepped forward in order to champion AI innovation across the entire of the Commonwealth. They have agreed to an action plan that seeks to leverage the power of responsible artificial intelligence tools in order to support small states, as well as to empower the 1.5 billion young people who are under the age of 30 in the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, the steering committee of the AI Consortium agreed on a robust action plan aimed at building capacity to use AI within our member countries in order to benefit from global innovations such as cloud computing and generative AI. It is also imperative that we operate within an agreed ethical and legal framework to promote trustworthy AI. It is envisioned that greater use of this technology will result in economic growth, sustainability, improved health outcomes, and job creations. This year's debate will undoubtedly explore whether artificial intelligence can be used to harness the power of sport to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. It will enable insightful conversations around the opportunities and threats of AI in the world of sport, and address how AI-led solutions can impact societal development in health, education, and youth engagement. This is an important year for sport and development and peace. In July this year, we will host the 11th Commonwealth Sports Ministers meeting chaired by the Government of Canada on the eve of the opening ceremony of the Olympics in Paris, that is in France, of course. In that meeting, we will follow on practical actions to building inclusive and resilient societies through sport. You will notice the focus on resilience, which is also this year's Commonwealth theme and the focus of our head of states meeting in Samoa later this year in October. This year of Commonwealth celebrates, the Commonwealth, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary, and sport development has been a cornerstone of bringing the Commonwealth family together, demonstrating the very best of human abilities and talents. As we reflect on the 75 years of promoting peace, democracy, and development, let us continue to aspire to achieve the ideals expressed in our Commonwealth Charter. After all, what is in our Commonwealth Charter are what we call our Commonwealth principles and values of democracy, tolerance, respect for diversity of thought and expression. These form a solid foundation for the debate we're having today. Sport is more than just a game, as we know. It is the universal language that transcends boundaries, cultures, and backgrounds. Sport brings people together. Finally, I would like to thank the social policy team of the Commonwealth Secretariat and all our partners who are here with us today for working together to prepare for this year's debate event. I certainly look forward to a great debate. Thank you very much indeed.
Deputy Secretary General, thank you for those opening remarks and helping to set the scene. We now have a welcome address from Ambassador Amina Mohammed, the Secretary General's Special Envoy for Sport, Enterprise and Development. Ambassador.
Well, thank you very much. Deputy Secretary General, Dr. Arjun Sudo, President of the Commonwealth Games Foundation, Mr. Chris Jenkins, Chair of Research and Innovation of the AI Consortium. I understand he's joining us online, so I hope he's there. distinguished High Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, and please allow me to recognize a very special and dear friend of mine, the High Commissioner for the Gambia, Ambassador Fatou Bensouda. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to attend the 8th Commonwealth Debate on Sport for Development and Peace. I'm greatly encouraged by your presence here today as we deliberate on the benefits and risks of utilizing AI in the sport sector. Allow me to begin by thanking our inspirational Secretary General, the Right Honorable Patricia Scotland, for my appointment as a Special Envoy for Sport, Enterprise and Development, as well as the appointment of two other distinguished ladies, Professor Manahel Thabet, the Secretary General Special Envoy for Science and Technology, and Professor Dame Carol Black, the Secretary General Special Envoy for Aging Well. The Commonwealth is a growing family. It's a growing family of 56 nations, a mixture of advanced economies, developing economies, and small states spread across the globe. We are bound together by our commitment to democracy, to human rights, the rule of law, to solidarity, and to collaboration, and motivated by our love for the many intangibles that define our human society, our diversity in culture, the arts, and of course, our love for sport. As we celebrate 75 years since the establishment of the Commonwealth, it's crucial to recognize the importance of sport as an enabler of sustainable development. With the SDGs in mind, particularly goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all, the creation of sporting opportunities for the youth and for children is integral to their physical health, their staying active, and to combat non-communicable diseases. The international community, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today stands at the intersection of two powerful forces: the unyielding pursuit of excellence in sport and the imperative to achieve sustainable development for all. In that pursuit, there's a general consensus that technology can serve as a catalyst to accelerate the realization of the SDGs by 2030, including through sport. As the immediate former Minister for Sport, Culture and Heritage of Kenya, as well as a sitting member of the Ethics Commission of the International Olympics Committee, I witnessed firsthand AI's role in interpreting and judging performances, analyzing player tactics, and assessing fan engagement, a role that immensely increased the general trust in sport outcomes. It has also become evident that technology-driven solutions actually transcend our borders. They empower all our communities, including the most vulnerable amongst us, to embrace the amazing transformative power of sport. From promoting gender equality, we had a team of 150 that went to the Olympics, and 50% were women, and the other 50% male, and it was really the first time that that had happened in our country. And social inclusion to fostering health and well-being. Sport has the unique ability to engage people, to unite them, and to drive positive change. In fact, to drive much-needed change. By leveraging AI-powered platforms for sport development and outreach programs, we can improve access to sporting opportunities, particularly for disadvantaged populations, allowing them to thrive and to contribute to national development and economic growth. Technology enhances the greening of sporting events, and that too I have been a witness to, and the greening of infrastructure by optimizing utilization of resources, reducing carbon footprints, at least attempting to do that, and enhancing operational efficiency, from smart stadiums equipped with energy-efficient systems to transportation that is electric and technology managed. Technology really played a pivotal role in two of the main sporting events that I attended very recently. And it did that by creating environmentally friendly and socially responsible sporting ecosystems. However, I must also say that despite providing objective analysis, factors like algorithm design and data quality can influence outcomes and reduce the independence of sportsmen and women, as well as their ability to fully interact and increasing dramatically their dependence on technology. Some have even argued that it dehumanizes sport. So while artificial intelligence has the potential to revolutionize sports, there are moral issues that need to be resolved and unexpected repercussions to be avoided. Transparency, responsibility, and human-centered design principles must be at the top of our minds, even as we embrace and utilize technology. Let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, by encouraging investment in AI research and development, to foster cross-sector partnerships, to provide and promote ethical guidelines that ensure responsible and equitable development and deployment of new technologies in sport, ensuring that we do not come face to face with the new digital divide. In many of our Commonwealth countries, sport serves as a powerful force for social cohesion and inclusion, bringing together people from diverse backgrounds and fostering a sense of unity and of national pride. Whether it's cricket in India, rugby in New Zealand, or athletics in Kenya, sport transcends social, cultural, and political biases and divisions, creating opportunities for interaction, for collaboration, and for dialogue among individuals and communities. I'm eager to learn today more from the discourse we will have on how the Commonwealth can capitalize on the potential of sport and technology to advance development goals, to promote inclusive growth, and to create a better future for its member states, for all of us. Finally, let me once again thank the Secretary General for the opportunity to serve, and more importantly, for the creation of the AI Consortium. I want to thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador, for those introductory remarks. I thought it was interesting you referencing the SDGs, and earlier we heard about the UN General Assembly. Obviously there was a half-time report provided last year on progress, so the point you make about the need for a catalyst to hit that 2030 target is very important. It's now my great pleasure to invite online Mr. Abduli Jameh, the chair of the Research and Innovation AI Consortium, to further help set the scene and provide some virtual remarks. So I'll pass over to Mr. Jameh.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, senior officials, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the onset, allow me to thank each one of you for joining this event today on the impact of AI in the sports sector. As the proliferation of AI has become the forefront of the current technological revolution, there is a lot of optimism at one hand as well as concern. As a result, the event today holds immense merit as we look forward to constructive discourse from our esteemed panelists. As a way of background, AI with its profound capabilities is likely to have an annual growth rate of 19%. And further findings suggest that the AI as an industry will amount to $900 billion by 2026. As a result, the sports sector, which is crucial to the development of many of our Commonwealth economies, is likely to be impacted by this growth. The AI market in sport is projected to increase from 2.43 billion in 2024 to 6.59 billion in 2028. With it, it is without doubt that the entire AI sports value chain will impact from athletic performance to data analytics for fan engagement of personalized experience, gaming and esports, and new sports infrastructure such as smart stadiums. The AI innovation is limitless. The AI will transform the entire sports value chain, and some of these are already happening. For example, the Microsoft partnership with NDB and Oracle's with Red Bull's sim racing. With all these excitements of AI reshaping the sports value chain in the sector, there are also concerns that must be addressed to reap these benefits. Issues surrounding AI ethics, data privacy concerns, the algorithmic bias and AI divide need to be addressed. It is indeed in response to these dual facets of AI impact that the Commonwealth has taken a proactive stance through the establishment of the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium. This initiative symbolizes our collective commitment to harnessing AI's potential while navigating its challenges. The Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium comprises of champion countries, lead industries players, AI SMEs, think tanks, and universities from across the Commonwealth that are working together to build the domestic capacity of its members through AI research and innovation, capacity building, policy and data and infrastructure. Some of the initiatives include the AI Policy Toolkit, an AI incubator for youth, the AI academic, and the exploration of computer capacity for our members, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, the sport debate today will be more than discussions. We will try to ensure it is a call to action to further expand and develop a vibrant sports sector through enhancement of sports value chain, through integration of ethical and responsible use of AI. We will take the discussions from the sport debate today and will work closely with the youth and the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium to ensure we implement some of the findings over time. I thank you for your attention here. Thank you.
Mr. Jame, thank you for your additional remarks, and obviously that is one of the benefits of technology, given that you were able to join us live from Gambia alongside an audience of over 100 online. Moving on to the matter at hand, which is the debate. As many of you know, the adoption of the April the 6th date as the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace signifies the increasing recognition of the positive influence that sport can have on the advancement of both sporting outcomes and non-sporting outcomes. One such example is the emergence of AI, artificial intelligence, in the sports market, which was accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, when the sector and many other sectors had to adapt delivery models, and AI is now an exciting opportunity, potentially, for all stakeholders in the sector to consider and take advantage of. Over the last 8 years, this Commonwealth debate has helped to progress the UN mandate given to sport as an important enabler for the Sustainable Development Goals. And this afternoon's debate is guided by the motion that artificial intelligence is the answer to accelerating the power of sport to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, which I mentioned earlier. What does that mean? Is that good or bad? Well, we're lucky to have with us here today 6 panelists, rather 2 debating teams and 2 adjudicators to help explore this issue further. So if I can now briefly introduce you to this esteemed group of people. The team arguing for the motion that artificial intelligence is the answer to accelerating the power of sport to help achieve the SDGs by 2030 is Preeti Shetty, who's the team lead. Preeti's the founder and CEO of Upshot, a tech social enterprise and a non-executive director of Brentford Football Club, which is a Premier League team, not too far from me, I have to say. And she's also a founding advisor of Ready Sport Global and Valor Sport. Joining Preeti is Ollie Bell. Ollie's the CEO of Roster, an emerging tech education company specializing in sport, health and fitness markets. And Ollie's also picked up top-tier certification from Harvard and Oxford universities in public narrative and blockchain strategy. And alongside Preeti and Ollie is Verera Oyeron, an elite volleyball athlete and FIVB Level 2 coach who has a strong passion for the sport, and her dedication to improving health outcomes is leading her to pursue a course later this year on how advanced technologies can accelerate world problems towards Agenda 2030. So that's the team debating for the motion. The team arguing against the motion is led by Rowan Malhotra. He's the co-founder and managing director of Berlin-based Sports Tech X, a market intelligence company for sports and innovation. Joining Rowan is Dr. Alberto Carrillo, who's the director of research programs at the Barcelona School of Management, Pompeu Fabra University. And joining Rowan and Dr. Alberto is Helen Robotham. Helen's the CEO of Access Sports, a coalition member, but Access Sports is a national sport and development mission to make inclusion the norm in community and grassroots sport. Helen's also a non-exec director and trustee of Paralympics GB, where she chairs the sports committee. And Rowan is the team lead for the team arguing against. Now, moving on to the adjudicating team, we're delighted and honoured that our adjudicating team this year will again be led by the Commonwealth Games Federation in the form of the newly elected President of the Commonwealth Games Federation, Chris Jenkins, who will be our head judge this afternoon. Chris is a distinguished leader with a career spanning several decades in both business and the world of sport, and he has a rich history in Commonwealth sport and sport for development. And joining Chris, we also have Aaron Smith. Aaron's the coordinator of the Commonwealth Sports for Development and Peace Youth Network. But if I could just briefly invite Chris as head judge to come up and say a few words about what the judges will be looking for this afternoon. Chris.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the teams, two panel teams, looking forward to this afternoon. I guess in one word, enlightenment. So I'd like to learn a lot about what's going to be discussed today. But I guess also looking at the power of sport and its real ability to change mindsets and highlight issues. It's really what we're looking for today. So key issues, succinctly argued. I guess drawing on the evidence to support the argument, but always linking back to the SDGs and the 2030 agenda, which is so clearly in the motion. I guess we also want to look at and hear about, safety, how AI could be inclusive, applied especially to the sports sector, again with relevant examples, hopefully back to sport. Demonstrating knowledge and expertise, I guess, of the area goes without saying, but really there's going to be a focus back into the Commonwealth as well, and the relevance to our member governments. And I guess referencing quite a few of the things we've heard in the speeches earlier on, whether it's the Commonwealth AI Consortium, which sounds brilliant, but also the Commonwealth's ministers' and CHOGM commitments and publications, but I guess also looking also at the wider literature as well, referencing that back as well. So I wish both teams well, and we look forward to hearing what you have to argue. So thank you all very much indeed.
Thanks, Chris. I hope both teams were taking note there of what you're going to be looking for. Okay, well, we are so lucky to have such an esteemed panel. Moving on to the ground rules for this debate. For those of you online and in the room who may have joined us for the first time, as with previous years, there's some important ground rules. So if I just run through them briefly, each speaker in turn will be asked to contribute for 4 minutes. To make sure they don't run over, a bell will be rung to let each speaker know that they've got 30 seconds left, and again once their 4 minutes are up. And you've just had an example there. I couldn't have scripted it better. Each team will field the speaker in turn, with the team arguing for the motion going first. And at the end of the contributions for each team will be invited to provide a rebuttal, with each rebuttal again lasting 4 minutes. Following the rebuttals, we'll move on to a more relaxed Q&A section of the agenda, where there'll be an opportunity for all of you, both in the room and online, to ask a few questions. And this year, in a rather radical development, we also have, if you've not already noticed, a special trophy for the winning team and medals for all the participants in the debate. So I hope all teams are now super ready, because it's going to be a competitive debate. In many ways, the Commonwealth Secretariat and everyone here today and online are all winners. But when I tell you that the current score, based on the previous 7 editions of the debate, is as follows: 3 wins for the for team, 2 wins for the against team, and 2 draws. There is something here for everyone to play for. And no pressure on the adjudicating team, but they're going to have to help us get a result one way or another this afternoon. So if I can invite our first panelist from the for team, it's Ollie Bell. Ollie.
Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. In the mid-1990s, we witnessed the first iteration of the World Wide Web. Some of us here today will remember the piercing dial-up tones that echoed around the room every time we plugged in to get online. Gone were the days where you'd have to sit next to a radio or buy a newspaper to find out how your favourite sports team had got on earlier that day. We now had access to the world's information at the touch of a button. By the mid-2000s, the creator economy was in full swing. Irresistible apps and services that we've come to rely on transformed how sport functions. We could now communicate with clubs and teams in real time, identify grassroots opportunities for ourselves and our children, and even pay our subscription fees without making daily trips to the bank, armed with plastic wallets full of pound coins and pennies. But with big tech centralizing the digital world and buying up the competition, we've ended up having to pay to play. And our data has fast become the new digital currency. Today, we stand at the starting line of a new digital era, one powered by AI and automation, where transparency and digital ownership make promises for a more decentralized and user-centric sport and physical activity sector. But will this AI-powered third phase of digital revolution help sport accelerate towards the sustainable development goals? In many ways, history itself has already answered this question for us. The Industrial Revolution created machines that quite literally accelerated us. And today, AI is already playing a pivotal role in helping us to solve major challenges in ways that map perfectly to us achieving the SDGs. Such innovations include tools that can respond in line with any demographic, persona, or group. Bots and GPTs can be trained by the community that they are supposed to represent, allowing any organization to fill an empty chair in the room with a live avatar of that audience member. Finally, our messaging can be representative at a hyper-local level, helping us get more people more active across more corners of the Commonwealth. In an attempt to democratize quality education, we're seeing legal services powered by AI to offer just-in-time support that would compare to that of an experienced legal professional. In developing countries where athletes may be at risk of exploitation, AI can now audit contracts, educate on legal terms, and provide access to affordable services that help us navigate crucial moments in an athlete's career. And to promote peace, justice, and reduce inequalities, The Hatemoji study inspired by England's World Cup penalty shootout, where racist messages were sent at scale. AI is now being used to identify and hijack potential hate speech and prevent it by prompting users to reconsider their language in crucial moments before messages are sent. These examples, along with many more innovations within this field that we will see in the years to come, showcase the ways that AI can help sport scale its impact and continue to drive positive impact. But let us remind ourselves, this debate is not about evaluating the technology itself. On its own, technology is neither good or bad. If it was, then we would be here today discussing why we have racist treadmills and what we're going to do about them. And we would be facing a pandemic because spin bikes would be discriminating based on gender. It is said that sport acts as a mirror to society, reflecting the most dysfunctional elements whilst also accentuating some of its most positive characteristics. Technology must be looked at through the same lens. AI will only ever be as good as the questions we ask it. But AI is not on trial today, and nor should it be. The outputs will reflect our inputs, and this notion is now more important than ever, so that in the not too distant future, time is up. Thank you very much.
Ollie, thank you. Now we've got our first panelist from the against team, and that's Rowan.
Yep, everybody's got me. We're good. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rowan Malhotra, an Indian currently living in Berlin, and I'm here to lead the team against the motion presented. And let me state it again to emphasize our areas of focus. Artificial intelligence is the answer to accelerating the power of sport to help achieve Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The answer, accelerate power of sport, SDGs by 2030. I do not agree with that statement, not because I do not believe in the power of AI, far from it. I cannot deny a technology that knowingly or unknowingly I use every day. It helped me to get to this beautiful venue. I used it to research and distill my arguments for this debate. Yes, I use AI tools very actively. They make my life easier. It would be hypocritical of me to speak otherwise. But to call this very powerful technology the answer at this moment is presumptuous at best, possibly naive, and dangerous at worst. AI is a very powerful tool, certainly. A tool that, because of the possibilities, needs to be handled with the kiddest of gloves. It requires good governance, it requires regulation, it requires building public trust, that requires transparency and accountability. All of these things take time. Yes, our speed of innovation will suffer, but given the stakes, I believe that is okay. And this is coming from a self-confessed pro-tech capitalist, because we must balance the risks with the potential rewards, both of which are significant. Back in 2004, when Facebook was founded, people would have scoffed at the idea that this tool, social media, would guide how people voted, would lead to generational mental health problems, would lead to the birth of online harassment and cyberbullying. Each of us in this room has experienced all of these things in one form or the other. Unintended consequences are a major problem. And with AI, that problem can compound pretty quickly. And by the way, AI is not new technology. The term has been around since the 50s, but I want to ask each one of you, when did you first come across the term and really start thinking about it? For me, it was through the movies. In 2001, the legendary director Steven Spielberg released a movie called Artificial Intelligence, starring the I See Dead People kid, Haley Joel Osment. It wasn't a very good movie, but I remember walking out of the theater thinking about this incredible reality that would seem possible in some sort of distant future. That future is not as distant today, which is why we are having this conversation now. November 2022 was a watershed moment because ChatGPT was unveiled and became the fastest growing consumer app in the world. For context, Netflix took about 3.5 years to reach 1 million users. ChatGPT, it hit 100 million monthly active users in 2 months. Since then, the conversation around AI is everywhere and with many questions. How do I leverage it for my benefit? What tools should I be using? But there are also other questions. Is this unbiased? Is this fair? How does this impact individual privacy? Will I lose my job because of AI? To a lot of those questions, the answer is not yet clear, and that is a problem. I work in the vanguard of sports innovation, and again, AI has been around a while, especially in computer vision and machine learning, performance tracking, broadcasting, sports officiating. AI is certainly a part of the conversation, but only a small one. And most crucially, it's been focusing only on commercial problems, not sustainable development ones. Forget accelerate, AI can hinder the achievement of SDG goals. We are here to stress the importance of human interaction in achieving SDGs. My colleagues will bring up many examples to illustrate those points. AI is a tool, a very powerful tool, but one we must treat very carefully. Thank you.
Rowan, thank you. Thanks very much for your contribution there. And I think I must be older than you, given your Spielberg film reference. My film reference is probably going back to the early 80s and probably with the Terminator film. Anyway, moving on. Our second panelist from the 4 team is Barrera. Barrera, if you'd like to take the lectern.
Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barrera Yarana, and I'll tell you my story. I'm a volleyball athlete, a current athlete, an elite athlete, and I'm Africa's youngest level 2 FIUB coach. What does that mean? A World Federation coach. This was only possible because of technology, so I'm obviously for technology. But I don't deny the fact that, of course, talking about the Commonwealth, I was born in Nigeria, emigrated here, and now I call here home, Britain. So I have a really good idea, believe it or not, about what technology means to Nigeria and what it means here in the UK. So I'll give you some practical examples. Here we talk about VAR in volleyball. It takes away the responsibility from a typical official and the bias, like they say, which is human, unavoidably. You now see a ball land, a coach presses a button, and on the screen, they see if the ball is in or out. It's very simple. Back home in Nigeria, we host a tournament, a continental tournament. That technology doesn't exist yet. But I can tell you what AI has done for Nigeria. Very recently, as of yesterday, there was the All African Games that took place in Ghana. The visibility of that game was unbelievable. Nigeria is largely, we're a young generation. Just from hashtags alone, the visibility of players, of athletes, the standardization of actually being able to see these athletes perform, and almost being judged on meritocracy, taking away the politics from sports, is coming back. It's forcing a lot of countries that normally will not pay attention to what is the most important thing, which is integrity, fairness within the sporting industry. Another thing I would say again is the MOOCs. Things like Zoom always has been around video conferencing, but COVID, one of the perks of it, we started to work remotely. A lot of countries that normally will not be able to attend meetings, a lot of countries that are smaller state countries, can we afford this? Now we can all sit down and you meet them at their point of need. So for one country, we might be talking about digital tech, wearing things, knowing what the weather is like. For another country, it's literally just the education and information of what sport can do for you by just living right, eating right, and as simple as an anti-doping webinar. AI is making a lot of change. Finally, I will talk about just hosting capacity. In Africa, for instance, again, I'll talk about Ghana. Very recently, Contractually UK went there to build the sports complex. After the tournament, they're converting the sports complex into a university. That is direct growth and development that will be brought as a result. As part of the tournament as well, there was a lot of things that were introduced. Clean water, sustainable energy, just information to the athletes, to the officials, and using that as a meeting point for world leaders, private, public, organizations, universities to have that conversation as to where are we going with technology. So I'll keep it short because, again, is AI perfect? Far from it. But so is everything that it first comes. It's never perfect to start with. But we need to start having that conversation because whether we like it or not, in 2019, they said 90% of companies already had some form of AI incorporated. By 2030, it would be a $15+ billion industry. We have to have this conversation like yesterday. Thank you very much for listening.
Ferreira, thank you. That was a great intervention and always great to get that athlete insight. Next up from the against team is Professor Alberto Carrier.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. Very happy to be here. First of all, I think we need to address three preliminary clarifications, right? The first one is that we are not against artificial intelligence. This is a kind of manner of the risk artificial intelligence entails, right? The second clarification is about what view of a sport we are addressing, an internal and external point of view. I myself am addressing an internal point of view, caring about the internal values of a sport and its educational side and health side, right? And the third one is what kind of a sport we are speaking about when we speak about artificial intelligence in a sport. Are we speaking about professional sport, amateur sport, youth sport, children's sport? Because the risks of artificial intelligence in any of them are very different. I developed my argument, 4 arguments linked to 4 development goals, right? The first one is linked to goal 3, good health and well-being of the athletes. It's true that artificial intelligence is a good tool, but it also is jeopardizing the health of the athletes because it's a short-term based technology focused in enhancement performance, right? Not long-term technology, and that is jeopardizing the health of the athletes, particularly when they are retiring. The second argument is linked to goal 3, gender equality. You all know about bias algorithm, right? But a few people know how this bias affects women's sport because the data gathered from top men athletes are applied to women's sport, and that is not fair. And third argument is related with reducing inequality, as Ambassador Amina said, right? Is AI reducing inequalities, or is rather an unfair distribution of AI around the world, and we are in the risk of creating first and second class athletes, first and second class clubs and federations. Is that what we want? Because fairness, as you know, is a good, important value of Olympism, and also fair play is an internal value of a sport that we need to care about. Are we playing at the same level? The fourth argument is related with another goal that was being previously mentioned. Goal 16, justice and a strong institution. Is that distribution fair? We need to create an ethical and legal framework before addressing all artificial intelligence in sport, just to protect athletes' rights, privacy, and autonomy, and also to ensure the principles of good governance. Finishing, I only want to say that this is a few examples how AI affects the integrity of a sport and the good governance of a sport, but there are many, many, many others. That's because it's not accelerating, it's not a response, but maybe rather is slowing the achievement of goal development. Thank you very much for listening.
Alberto, thank you, and an interesting point to end on in terms of bringing in the governance aspect as well. Our third panelist on the 4 team is Preeti Shetty. If I can invite Preeti to take the stage.
That's okay? Can all hear me okay? Okay. Our society stands at the crossroads of progress and regression. The stark reality of widespread poverty, climate change, inequality, racism, discrimination, and misogyny cannot be overlooked. These deep-rooted issues permeate every facet of our lives, including the realm of sport, which rather than serve as an escape, often amplify and reflect these. In the face of this adversity, our traditional approaches to sport for development, while necessary, fall short of the systemic change that we need. AI gives us an unprecedented opportunity to do something at scale, to operate at scale, and emerges not just as a tool, but as a beacon of hope and transformation for the world. As my fellow teammates have said, sport in its essence is a mirror to society, reflecting both the beauty and the ugliness of our collective human condition. In our current state, we tackle these issues piecemeal, one intervention at a time, representing just a drop in the ocean of change that we need. By harnessing AI, we can collect, analyze, and leverage data to be able to provide us the undeniable evidence that sport works. This data, this proof, is what we have been missing. This is the foundation by which we can write and build a manifesto for sport that will reflect the principles of fairness, equality, and inclusion. This manifesto needs to be brought into the hands of policymakers all across the Commonwealth to ensure that we aren't just supercharging the global north, but we're also supporting our fellow nations by giving them the data, the resource, and the skills that they need to leverage AI in their contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals. Imagine a world where AI-powered platforms not only highlight gender disparities, but also actively promote and ensure equal representation and opportunities. Picture AI tools that can detect and counteract in real time hate speech and racism, both online and in stadiums, creating a safe environment where athletes and fans can be celebrated and protected just for their passion for the game. Consider the potential of AI to bridge the digital divide, to shape ethics and governance that our fellow teammates talked about, to counter misinformation at a global scale. That's what we're missing right now. We're trying to do this one by one, but to do this at a global level, that's what we need. Now, none of these tools or platforms that I mentioned are a dream. They all exist right now, and they are the blueprint for the future. A blueprint, a future in which sport and AI together can foster a global society that values and practices inclusion at every level. The journey ahead requires us to form a better relationship with technology, not to be scared of it or whether it will take our jobs. We need to see AI as a partner in shaping our sector and our society. By embracing AI, the sports sector has the opportunity to lead by example, by demonstrating technology can be a force for good, a force to reduce inequalities, to build more sustainable cities and communities. It is our pathway for inclusive growth, for sustainable development, for shared prosperity among member countries. But to do this, we have to do it well. We have to use it for good. And as hopefully our team has articulated, we need to focus on education. We need to focus on job creation, on innovation. We need to focus on individuals that aren't being reached and whose needs are not being met. We have to focus on our smaller nations and close that gap. And we as a sector need to come together to leverage data and use it at scale. In conclusion, let our sector, united with sport, stand as the true partnership for the goals.
Preeti, thank you. It was great to hear about the global opportunities to operate at scale there, and also the benefits revolving around education, employment, etc. Last but by no means least, the third and final debater on the against team is Helen from Access Sport.
Fantastic. Is that working? A bit higher? Okay. So, maybe slightly higher. Okay, so we've heard many different views on whether AI is the answer to accelerating the power of sport to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. But perhaps the most fundamental argument against the motion is the simplest. The reason sport, whether it be community, elite, or commercial sport, is so powerful in driving the SDGs is because of its power to connect people, create communities, drive human behavior change. But AI, by definition, lacks humanity. Think about why sport is important to you. The young people that we support at Access Sport tell us they love the joy of movement, fun, and friendship. They revel in sport's ability to unite people and drive human connection locally and globally. They love the sense of belonging and community they experience. Sport makes them feel physically and mentally strong. They value the life skills they learn, teamwork, resilience, working towards a goal. And they recognize that sport supports their personal growth, their sense of pride and achievement. This is the human side of sport. Put simply, AI is a very fast, powerful computer system which, for now at least, takes the data that we put in and answers the questions that we ask it. That makes it brilliant at processing data, driving efficiencies in lots of areas, but it can't replicate real human connection. When I ask clubs, organizations, coaches, volunteers how we can help them to achieve their inclusion goals, they don't say AI please, tech, data, or more guidance documents. They say they want someone to listen to them, understand their challenges, answer their questions, encourage them. A brilliant club leader we support described the support we provide as the wind beneath her wings, giving her energy to plow on. But could AI ever be described in that way? Independent research on our programs by the University of Bath reinforces the critical role that people, not AI or technology, play in accelerating the power of sport to achieve the SDGs. Over 90% of respondents said that the sense of belonging they feel at a club underpins their ability to access the wider benefits of sport. And emotional connection was critical for 88%. The research concluded that for the underserved communities we support, opportunities for socialization through clubs, improved individual well-being and educational attainment, they addressed feelings of isolation and helped divert young people away from antisocial behavior. And our recent disabled teenage girls research also reinforces the critical roles that people, coaches, volunteers, teachers play in creating a non-judgmental, a welcoming environment for these young women so they can benefit from all that sport has to offer. This isn't to say that grassroots sport can't use AI, but we need to engage the people that make sport happen in its development, or we risk alienating them and actually slowing progress towards the SDGs. Looking beyond the grassroots work of Access Sport, let's consider some real-world examples of sport driving SDGs. I would argue that on its own, AI cannot replicate the passion and drive of an athlete advocating to stop plastic pollution or take the bold decision to ban single-use plastics from a sporting event. It can't conceive a radical new campaign such as We Are the 15 or Meet the Superhumans that unite athletes and sports fans across the world. And it can't deliver an opening ceremony that makes a nation feel proud. Because these real examples are, first and foremost, human endeavors, and AI cannot replicate the technicolor moving picture of human intelligence. Even as AI evolves, let's hope that the value we place on human and emotional intelligence as sports leaders, coaches, and volunteers, and their ability to drive change will grow, not shrink.
Helen, thanks for that evidence-based contribution to the debate. And it was interesting to hear about the University of Bath research you quoted, and I did see Hayden from the University of Bath in the room earlier, so it's great that he can be with us here in person today as well. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, this now concludes the arguments for and against the motion. In a moment, I'm going to invite the team leaders, Rowan and Preeti, to come up to the stage and reflect and provide a rebuttal of the respective arguments that have been presented. But I did say at the beginning of the afternoon that we were lucky to have been able to assemble such a great range of experts, collectively and individually. You've both tackled the motion head on from your respective positions, and it was quite striking to hear the passion, conviction, skill and knowledge you expressed, and I could see that you'd also done your homework in terms of researching this topic in depth. If this is an example of the expertise that's available in the Commonwealth or across the Commonwealth to help us use this tool that we call sport to help us collectively work towards achieving the SDG goals, then that can be a good thing. There is knowledge out there to help sports ministries and non-sport ministries to help people more often in more communities through the use of the sporting toolbox. But can I just stop and ask you to help me thank again both debating teams before we move to the rebuttals? Great. So now we move on to those rebuttals. Each team will have 4 minutes again, starting with the for team and then followed by the against team. So can I now invite Preeti to come up?
4 minutes passes incredibly quickly. Okay, firstly, thanks so much for that. We started our for motion very much considering the negatives, the dark side of sport and AI. And so all of the points the against team have made are incredibly valid, but they only serve to validate our argument that as a sector, we need to get more involved with AI, not less. We need to be involved with building it, teaching it, training it, governing it, humanizing it. Remember, we're not talking about replacing human effort. We're talking about amplifying it. I'm going to touch upon a couple of things that our against team mentioned, mostly because this requires a multifaceted approach. The first one being data biases, absolutely, but that's even more reason that we need more diverse data sets, that we are involved in feeding what AI is learning. We also need ongoing monitoring of AI systems to identify and correct biases and ensure that we're regularly updating models with new data. There's a really great example of a few years ago, if you Googled the lionesses, you would see female lions, whereas now you see the England women's national team. If you now Google CEO dress code, you will see lots of white men in suits. There's actually one woman and she's wearing pink. So we need to be showing it what we want it to see. So absolutely, but we can't sit behind and wait for biases to correct themselves. In terms of ethical considerations, for us this is really around stakeholder engagement. We need to include representatives from all of our countries and all of our projects to make sure that we are testing, we are developing with them, we are talking about ethical boundaries, that we're ensuring that technology is addressing their needs. We're not just going off and doing it on its own, which is what's happening right now. This technology is already here, and it's happening without us. And so for us, the important piece is making sure that we're part of this conversation. Ambassador Amina put it really well when she said, and we talked about closing the gap as well, we need dedicated funds and grant programs to be available to smaller Commonwealth countries, but also startups, NGOs, academic institutions, so they can go and build and test, and they can build it with more inclusive AI development teams. Verer was telling me that what's the percentage of black people that work at Google? 2%. These are the people that are building this. And so it's really important that we are funding the right organizations and people so they can go and build more inclusive AI. I also wanted to touch upon the misinformation and the political intervention that we're absolutely seeing in sport. And again, we need to, and in AI, we need to invest in the development of technologies that are capable of detecting and then flagging deepfakes and misinformation, highlighting source data, verifying where the information is coming from. The use of blockchain has been really valuable in verifying content sources, for example. But this comes back to education and awareness. We need digital literacy among our fans, our participants, our stakeholders that are equipping them with the skills to recognize and respond to misinformation. As a data person myself, data privacy and security is crucial. This comes down to implementing stringent data protection measures, encryption, anonymization, consents. But what I really, where I want to summarize here is AI absolutely presents risks. And these can be effectively mitigated through thoughtful regulation, through ethical guidelines, through technological advancement, it's moving very quickly, more targeted resources, better education, and stakeholder engagement. By addressing these concerns head on, we can harness the power of AI to enhance our sporting sector and make it more inclusive, fair, and sustainable without compromising ethical standards or privacy. It would be wasteful of us to ignore the transformative potential of AI to achieve such great educational, healthcare outcomes, sustainability outcomes, just because we're worried about the risk. There's a saying that there's 3 kinds of people in the world: those who watch things happen, those who make things happen, and those who say, "What happened?" Let's not be the people who let this opportunity pass us by.
Preeti, thank you. And now if I can invite Rowan to take to the stage to provide a rebuttal for the against team.
Preeti always has good ideas, so I'm going to steal her timer idea. All right, actually, it's fantastic that we agree on so much. It's made for maybe not so lively debate, but I'd argue that their side has agreed with more of our side of the motion. It's not that I haven't heard too much to talk about AI being the answer to accelerating the power of sport to achieve SDGs specifically, and I think that's what we were certainly arguing. We're not here to put AI in trial. As Ollie said, nobody's contesting the use of AI. We, of course, we've already established that AI is used so much. Verena talked about use of AI in various things, in officiating and anti-doping. I'd ask everyone in the room, how do you feel about the current state of officiating in sport and the use of technology within it? I think there'd be enough arguments against the use of AI and other AI tools than there would be for it. Also, speaking about use of AI and anti-doping, by the way, AI can also be used for doping. That's a whole other argument. Preeti spoke about society being at a crossroads, and AI can do a lot of things. Yes, it can. Again, none of that is being argued, but not all tech is AI. Blockchain is not AI. Zoom calls are not AI. All tech is not AI. And why should we not trust AI? Ollie spoke at the start about referencing the answer lies in our history and the Industrial Revolution and the development that it caused. But if I was to ask IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, about the state of the environment today, would you say that all the outcome of the Industrial Revolution was positive? IRENA believes that at least $44 trillion need to be invested in achieving a net zero state by the mid of the century, and this investment is required by 2030, the same period that we're looking at. And not just that, that is green tech. There is a lot of investment, the 4 teams spoke about, in AI. But by the way, there's a lot of investment in a lot of things. AI will see an investment of about $1.6 trillion, but there'll also be a similar amount invested in cloud computing, in 5G and connectivity, in immersive experience, in cybersecurity, servers and data centers. All of these tools which AI needs to sit alongside in a toolbox to deliver on its promise. One important one, by the way, semiconductors and the problem that we're facing a shortage of those. NVIDIA's share price is a clear example of why that industry is going a certain way, and without semiconductors, without microchips, AI cannot function. So how can something be the answer when it's reliant on so many other interconnected technologies? That is an important point that we want to make. Also, the human interaction cannot be stated enough. Education, they spoke about so much. Are we really going to rely on AI to deliver education to a large audience of young people? Ethics, we talk about. Are we really going to rely on AI to develop ethical frameworks? No. These are things that we need to do as humans to help implement this tool, a very powerful tool, the right way. Unintended consequences are a reality. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but the most dangerous enemy is the one you do not know. Yes, I am a cinephile, so I'm going to go back to the movies. And I'm going to end on a quote from a movie that I watched very recently and one that I enjoyed very much, Oppenheimer. It made me think very deeply. When presenting his nuanced view on the world and human nature, J. Robert Oppenheimer said, "The optimist thinks that this is the best of all possible worlds. The pessimist fears that this is true." Thank you.
Rowan, thank you for that. I must admit I didn't realise that AI could also have an impact on doping in sport, so I certainly hope colleagues at the World Anti-Doping Agency are taking note. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, this concludes the formal part of the debate. I don't envy the task that our judges have been set, but our adjudicators will now be escorted out of the room to undertake the serious task of selecting a winner. Thank you, judges, and we'll call you back in later on. Okay, so while our judges are deliberating, we've got the opportunity now to take questions from the audience to the debate team members. So we can take questions both in person here at Marlborough House, but also online as well from the Commonwealth and beyond. We've got about 20 minutes for Q&A and approximately 10 minutes for each team. So it will be helpful if team leaders can be succinct with their answers. We don't want to give Esther any more opportunities to ring that bell. I know she's been enjoying that. To assist us with the task, we've got a couple of roving microphones in the room. But can I first invite questions from the floor for Preeti, the team leader for the 14? Does anyone want to ask any questions? Got a question at the back there.
All right. Thank you. Those were powerful presentations in both words. My name is Steve Onwasaya. I'm the acting head of human rights at the Commonwealth Secretariat here. Just a very simple question from the four group. I didn't get a clarity about how states can ensure the consolidated, progression in terms of protecting the rights of the populations, within their jurisdiction, even with this powerful tool called AI. In other words, how can you ensure that states keep on track the obligation to protect the rights of the vulnerable groups within our system? If that is a little bit clear. Thank you.
Do you want me to repeat that, Preeti? Yeah. So I think the question was, with the advanced development of AI, how can states or governments protect the individual rights? Preeti, thank you. Has anyone got another question? going to go to Gary here, second row on the left.
Do I need to reload all of that, Hitesh?
We heard it. It might be worth just
Okay, I'll go straight to the question. So, so in terms of the information that we're feeding it, from micro organizations at grassroots right through to large organizations, if we are feeding it sensitive, confidential information as part of that shaping, how can we, without regulation or certainly learning lessons of the past, be sure that that then isn't open to violation or abuse?
Do you want me to repeat that question? Okay.
Thanks, Gary. So from my perspective, that is one of the questions that I am asked most in my tours around the sector. And it is, we've received this letter from government or Ofsted as a training provider asking us, what is our policy for AI? And can it be used in assessments? Can it be used to supplement the assessment process or a portfolio of work? And there is no guidance, and there are no resources, and there is no framework at the moment that government is able to point to help these organisations steer in the right direction and therefore do justice to the learners. So that's just one example from the education side, but equally there are membership advisors, there are companies that are uploading board minutes, no one quite knows. And I think the calling for me certainly is around education and democratising education around something whilst it's starting, but hasn't yet started. And I think this is the opportunity that we've got. As things accelerate, we're going to end up in a world where the new programming language is the human language, and we will be able to create things as well. So it's really important before things get out of control that we start to create policies and guidance and frameworks in education to support all organisations that are starting to use AI.
I agree with that. It's really about we need to create the guidance and we need to create the guidelines. But on a very practical note, because I get asked this all the time, is like, you know, my team wants to use ChatGPT, and to analyze a massive Excel sheet that has participant names, what should I do? And the answer is you shouldn't be putting sensitive information into open data sets right now. However, you can create closed data sets so that you, again, there's support with this, that you own, that nobody else has access to right now. So from an efficiency standpoint, you can still use the technology. We do it all the time. But you need to be aware, and you absolutely need policies on it, of what you are and aren't able to do. And for me, it's an extension of our duty of care. It's an extension of GDPR. Stuff we're doing already that we're so used to doing, we just need someone to write it, or we need to be part of writing it, so that we're bearing in mind the sensitivities of A, the data we're uploading, and B, the participants whose lives it may impact.
Great, thank you, Ollie and Preeti. Before I can see someone's got their hand up who's very keen to ask a question. So before we go to the online question, could we just pass the microphone?
Sure. Thank you. Again, it's regarding the data input, and what we're seeing in sport is we're seeing where AI is being used, whether it's the extreme model in football or the offside model. Are we running a risk that we're going to have a data set that's available for some and not for others? Therefore, the nature of sport is going to be different at certain levels because we've got the haves and the have-nots.
Great, and thank you. And for those that don't know, that's the Chief Executive of Fight for Peace. Who wants to take that one on the 14th?
No, again, great question. And you're right, we will run the risk of that, which is why this needs to be a collective effort. It's the same as we were having this conversation with shared measurement a few years ago. It's exactly the same conversation. We can all have our individual data sets, and we can go talk to government and funders about give us money because boxing and MMA is better than swimming. We can keep doing that, or we can do it collectively, and we can say we all agree that this is the data set that we will share and we will use, and we know it's protected in these ways because we've had these conversations and we've abided by the policy, and therefore this is something that everyone can use. It's interesting that this is a sport for development problem because you mentioned the elite sport conversations. In football, it's like betting data. Everyone has it, everyone uses it. The downside of it, and this is where AI needs to work with technologies like blockchain, is because we're saying right now this is participant data that we are using and we get to decide what we think is best without consulting them. And hopefully this switch is saying they get to be part of this conversation. Do they want their data to be part of a bigger data set that's being used? How are we doing this with everybody else and making sure that, this is why consent comes in, not just I ticked a box 4 years ago because I came to an event, but that I can actively give and take it back. I know where it's going. I know what it's being used for. So I think it's a great question, but one that we need to answer collectively as a sector rather than, and this is the risk with anything, a big company going off and doing it on their own. Well, but it can be collected. We just need to agree what that means and where it's going, right? But no, I take your point, and yeah, you're right. It could further create a bit of a gap. But for me, that's an opportunity for us to go to the NGBs and elite sport and say, well, let's have that conversation, because there's also a pathway piece in the middle that's missing. That's not just data related. But yeah, I take your point.
Thank you. We'll come to you shortly. So we've got an online question.
We have two questions online.
We've got 2 questions online. Just before. Okay, great. So we'll take one online question for the 14 now.
So I think we should.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wilfred, do you want to ask that question?
I'll read it. So this question is coming from online, and it's for the Against team, and it says, are the human and social effects, like demographics, ignored in sport? For example, multiply effects of this year's Olympics on Manchester United stadium proposal. Shall I read it again? Yep, I'll read it one more time. And it says, are the human and social effects like demographics ignored in sports? For example, multiply effects of this year's Olympics or Manchester United stadium proposal.
Yeah, not 100% sure we got that question. The multiplier effects. So demographics in sports, yes, the data is captured, and that's used. Again, could be for or against. Could answer this. How that data is utilized is important, and that's, I think, all of the previous questions were around how data can be captured and utilized, and how good frameworks are required for it. If you're talking about the impact of how demographic data is used on those kind of decisions, yeah, so yeah, the impact of how data being collected and demographics and sports kind of data is what that impact has on Manchester United stadium proposal, for example. I mean, those are the kind of, yeah, that's looking, let's say, quite far in the future, and AI can certainly help trying to predict what those possible outcomes will be. But again, how do you trust predictive technology? How repetitive? Like, what are the odds of the probabilities of those predictive outcomes? Those are the questions that need to be asked. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if how we've answered that question, or we've tried to do it the best way. But it's just one of those. AI can certainly help with predictive analytics to help ascertain probabilities of certain outcomes, and demographic in sports. That data is available and is usually collected.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I understood well the question too, but the problem of predictability and data collection is, as all the previous questions, an ethical problem. I myself am a lawyer and a philosopher, right? And when I started to learn from artificial intelligence, I'd say that's a fantastic tool. but with a lot of ethical problems, right? And those ethical problems, education and ethics, is something that we cannot teach to technology, right? Because technology can learn ethics. So we are putting in hands of people who we don't trust a terrible technology and losing the control of this technology, right? So we agree that technology is fantastic, very good, very powerful, even more powerful than humans. So what we need is to control the technology, embed ethics in technology, and before do that, be sure that we can control it. That's our position, not against artificial intelligence, against as artificial intelligence is just now, right? Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me.
Thank you. We have another online question, I think, for the
It's for
14. Yeah, Wilfred.
Thank you. Thank you, Hitesh. And so this question is now for the 14, and it says, if AI was to be used to change one element in the sports sector, what would that one thing be? I'll repeat it one more time. It says, if AI was to be used to change one element in the sports sector, what would that one thing be?
While the team confers, I'll just say that it's been great to see the level of interest online in this debate. I understand that we had over 400 people register to join us online from across the 56 countries of the Commonwealth and beyond. So I think that puts into focus the place and position this sports debate has on the global stage. Have you conferred?
Yeah, actually, it was a very easy answer. I thought we'd all have different things, but I think we've all kind of gone for gender equality. Just the sheer potential that AI has to identify inequalities, to be able to create new jobs, to educate en masse, to teach new skills, to be able to highlight disparity, to be able to promote fairness, peace. You know, we were talking about that hate speech example earlier. These things are happening right now, and a lot of it is for us, and I think especially both of us and Ollie, who has a little daughter, I know, really we're looking at this going, this is how we're going to get things like the gender pay gap, like the ethnicity pay gap. This is how we're going to get from where we are to where we need to be. The gender pay gap, it's going to take 257 years to close it. We don't have that kind of time. If AI can close that gap even a little bit, agreeing, absolutely. It is not about, we're not letting AI go off and do it on its own. Our whole argument was we need to be involved with the technology in order for it to accelerate the goals, not let it go off and do it itself. But I think that the gender equality point is probably the strongest for us.
Thanks, Preeti. I think we've got some time now for some questions for the. Well, we've got absolutely. Ron, you go ahead.
Yeah, I do actually. No, I just nothing to disagree at all. Just to my perspective on where the opportunities in AI and how it can impact sport for good actually is. I'm a big believer in AI democratizing broadcasting technology and how you can put any game on some sort of screen somewhere in the world. And why that is important is because it allows you to create heroes, and it allows you to tell stories, and it allows you to go into corners and parts of the world that it's hard for you to do with big camera crews and things like that. But just somebody with a phone can go out and record a game and put them on a stream and get that out there, and that can create so much commerce and so much possibility. And that is only possible through AI, and that was certainly not possible for a few years ago. So yeah, I would say for me it's how AI unlocks so many possibilities in broadcasting technology.
Ron, thank you. And on that specific point, I expect our sports rights owners and also betting operators will have a view on that as well.
Plenty of opportunities.
But we have some time, I think, for a couple of in-person questions from the audience here at Marlborough House. Does anyone want to ask a question for the against team? There's a question there.
Excuse me if I'm a bit croaky. I'll try and get through this quickly. My name's Trevor Smith. I'm here as trustee and vice chair of the International Physical Literacy Association. It's great hearing this conversation about sport. Of course, we all know sport is one form of physical activity. And if we're looking at the SDGs, we're looking about having a population that moves. Before we get to sport, many of us need to first be confident and competent moving and motivated to move. So my question is, linked to the education piece, I think, is whether any of the panel here feel that AI can contribute to the development of basic movement competency for people. We know that there are applications that will look at technique, that will study form at the elite level. What about at grassroots level? What about something that can support and interact with an individual at a personal level to help them develop a positive relationship with moving? Many will find sport as a consequence, excuse me, but for me, we're potentially missing something on an SDG route because it's an inactive population that's our problem, not necessarily a non-sporty population. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. Who wants to take it? Okay.
Thanks for that question. It is an area really close to home for me because my university dissertation was on fundamental movement skills in children, where I learnt to be a coach, and my first kind of dipping my toe into this sector was teaching children, where you'd spend more of the lesson getting year R's ready for a session than you would actually outside running or doing any kind of movement. So I think if we look at what captures the attention of early years children and what is going to promote them to then go and take up sport, we need to worry about the ones that aren't going to find sport and competition on their own, right? So what is going to capture people? We go back to human behavior, games, storytelling, engagement, superheroes. AI has a profound ability for us to create stories, to create interventions in lessons, to program at scale, to cater for different types of learner, different learning styles, and any kind of disabilities or challenges that certain participants have. So I would be using AI very, very practically in this one, and trialing and testing, and then feeding the AI so it learns from you and your students and your groups. And I think that's the way that we can start to engage more people, and that is then going to translate into hopefully more people developing those long-term habits.
Did anyone want to come in? Yeah, Alberto.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. It's a fantastic tool that we need to learn how to use, right? The problem is that, for example, when we speak about artificial intelligence in children's sport or e-sport, they are collecting very sensitive data about the children that we can't contain, right? This is really dangerous. And also it's dangerous that we are transforming a ludic activity to engage people to be together, and we are splitting them up, right? Because they are playing through devices, some of the time helping by artificial intelligence. And this is why we consider that it is fantastic tool, but in expert hands, not a tool that all the people can use and for all the purpose. And this is because in many times it's not the answer, and artificial intelligence can or is creating so high expectation that can later slow the answer to achieve a sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we've got time for one final question from the audience in the room. I can see the lady there right at the back has her hand up. Yeah, if we can pass the microphone to her. Oh, sorry. So Jenny's been waiting.
Thank you, Itish. I think I just got in there in time. Jenny O'Cleaker from Delalia Rugby Works. My question is for the full team. I think it's an excellent debate. I was really taken by the comments by Rohan and Alberto around governance and ethical considerations. And I understand the point around, this is about people being involved and But my question really is how? How can we be really confident about those safeguards that can be put in place? Yes, it's about the safeguards. How can we be confident about that?
I mean, it is right for us, it is right for you especially, to be thinking about this, right? And I mean, I don't have a very clear answer other than, as we have done with other technologies in the past, it's not like we haven't had this conversation before. It's not like we didn't have this conversation with the first iteration of the internet, when suddenly more information was available to us and our kids than ever before. For me, it's about putting in those principles of fairness, of accountability, of transparency, of understanding how it's going to work. Absolutely involving the right people, right? Because the people in this room should not be the people making the decisions on how the future of AI is going to work, and that's why it takes consortiums. The question is, how do we become part of those consortiums? But that's a question for the Commonwealth Secretariat. But it really is about having a framework that says what we are comfortable with and what we are not. And countries, big tech, everybody involved in this, signing something that says, yes, we will adhere to it. I mean, in theory, it's that simple. That's how we do it. What is our threshold for risk? What are we comfortable with? Do we all agree that the benefits outweigh some of the potential risks? And here's how we'll mitigate the risk. And therefore, this is what you are allowed to do. And this is, Ollie and I were talking about this in preparation for this. There's been a dark side to everything. There's a dark web. There's a black market. These things all exist. We don't want AI to sit on that side of it because we want to use it for good. But we then need to decide what are we comfortable with that sits on that side, recognizing there will always be a dark side to this. But it's not the technology that's making it dark, it's the people that are, which is a shame. And so I think that's all that we can do. And the really practical way is there will be I'm sure that lots of more clever people than me are working on this. There will be a commission, they will decide some things, people will agree, and off we go. And hopefully it will be that simple. But we are right to ask these questions, and one of the best things about this debate and these forums, I don't know if sport for development would normally be part of these conversations. And so it's wonderful that we are, and that going forward, and when we talked earlier, we said the same thing, this debate cannot end here. How are we taking this forward into the sector, into the work that we do, and absolutely everything the Against team has said, we need to do it, we can't wait for it to fix itself, and then say we didn't like the way they did it. And I think that's very much the call to action, is go and see what we can all be part of. And again, the coalition, will no doubt be supporting and leading on some of this.
I'll just add very briefly. With everything in life, there is a deterrent for bad behavior. When my background is pharmaceutical sciences, and when we started with drug discovery and drug delivery, there were patents. And basically compulsory licensing punishable if you copied someone else's work. So the same way, if we are strict about the enforcement of the law around these things, whereby people are literally used as examples, if you go wrong way, it's a deterrent to bad behavior. I come from a country that works. And I've seen it here over and over again. So sometimes we try to play nice in these diplomatic conversations, but we also need to take responsibility, knowing that if you go wrong, this is what the stakes are. These are the consequences. And I think that way, from the beginning, people will be a lot more put off, I hope, from doing wrong with the right thing, if that makes any sense. Because it's here to stay. We just really need to find a way to make it work.
That's a great point, and I think it underlines the importance of having very, very good legislators and parliamentarians in place to kind of put in place that legal framework. I think that concludes our Q&A now. If you didn't get a chance to ask a question, then there is coffee following the debate, so you've got the opportunity to engage with the debating teams more then. But anyway, we now move on. Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished delegates, we'll now move on to the section of the programme where we have a special address. To deliver our special address on the Commonwealth's commitment to AI and the opportunities for sport, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Radhika Kumar, Advisor on Infrastructure Policy here at the Commonwealth Secretariat. So if I can invite Radhika to take the stage, please.
Good afternoon. Are you able to hear me? Am I audible? Okay. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished panelists, and ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to thank and congratulate the panelists for the excellent deliberation on AI and sports. So, we've heard a lot about AI and sports, for and against, and honestly, if I was to judge, I would be the most confused judge of all, because both the points were, from both ends were very good. So what I would do before I would touch a bit on bringing all this together as to what the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium is doing, is just to provide a bit of some insights on how we see sports with economics and then linking it to the consortium. So we've already had that, of course, the AI economy is projected to have an annual growth of 19%, and it will reach a $900 billion economy by 2026. And of course, sports sector has got a chunk in its own in terms of the leverage that we can do from that. So having said that, in simple terms, we have to focus on AI in the sports sector for the Commonwealth and how our members will be able to benefit that. And it's without doubt that sports is a common denominator across all Commonwealth economies, despite our differing size and nature. So in terms of the focusing on the analysis of the sports sector with the SDGs and linking to the consortium, this brings me to the analysis of how we can augment artificial intelligence in the sports value chain. It is very critical for us to understand we are not substituting AI, but we are augmenting AI in the sports value chain to optimize the benefits. So all of you are experts in AI around the table. You might have heard of the general agreement on trade in services, which clearly lays out how services is basically supplied. So in the area of sports, we have 4 modes of services. Mode 1 is the cross-border supply of service. Mode 2 is consumption abroad. Mode 3 is commercial presence. And Mode 4 is the movement of natural persons. Now, if I apply that in the sports sector, of course, in terms of the cross-border trading sports services and AI can actually enhance, as it's already been mentioned, in the area of broadcasting and sports events with advanced analytics to improve virtual reality experiences. In terms of consumption abroad, of course, sports tourism is one of the key areas where countries can benefit. We have commercial presence. Of course, this is where investment by foreign investors in sports infrastructure in countries is one of the areas, and also the movement of natural persons, which includes movement of players, movement of coaches, trainers, and so forth. Now, delving into sports as a trade sector, then moving into the challenges. I won't delve into these challenges because it has been said over and over again. Of course, 3 key issues in AI in the sports sector we recognize needs to be addressed. And the first, which is the very beginning, is the access and use of data, which is the AI models. In there, we have to ensure that data privacy is important. We've heard about that, and we have also had some references to the data frameworks, and for example, the EU GDPR. Then the second element within the AI development is, of course, the AI models. You might have heard a lot about the current LLMs and all those models. So the way in which AI models are developed will depend on how good the outcomes be. We have had that. And of course, the AI systems, that is the data, the infrastructure, and how the algorithms learn. If the system is not updated, the algorithm will be biased. Now, with these, just in a gist, augmentation of AI in the sports sector would require us overall to also address the digital skills gap amongst the Commonwealth countries, from the first mile to the last mile. Why I'm discussing about first and last mile is because we have to look into the entire AI development phase from access and use, AI model development, AI systems. So at each stage, skills development is key. And also with that, we need compute capacity and infrastructure to build AI solutions in sports. With this overall context, the above brings me to the next very important point on the approach which the Commonwealth is using in relation to the tackling the issues surrounding artificial intelligence. So recalling the mandate of the Commonwealth heads of government to bridge the digital divide and empower our citizens, including youths and gender, with digital technology, in June 2023, under the leadership of our Secretary General, Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium has been established. And we have rightly been hearing, and I was glad when I was hearing this over and over again, that we need a multi-stakeholder approach, we need to get together, we need to have dialogue, we need to build consensus. So I was like, our Secretary General under her leadership is doing exactly what people are asking for. So the aim of the Commonwealth Artificial Intelligence Consortium is to implement the mandates of our leaders by building the domestic AI capacity of our members, in particular the small states that are lagging behind in the digital race. Now, how are we exactly approaching this? Is through a multi-stakeholder approach with governments, private sector, tech firms, think tanks, research institutions, and universities to collaborate through the entire AI ecosystem. We cannot build AI in isolation. We have to look at the entire ecosystem. And we recognize the different levels of development for countries and the digital maturity levels in the Commonwealth. And therefore, looking into the entire AI ecosystem, what we are doing is that we have established working groups in AI relating to research and innovation, capacity building, policy, and data and infrastructure. Now, each of the working groups, as you might have heard at the very beginning, one of the leads, champion countries, had delivered its remarks. So likewise, each of the working groups are led by an industry lead or a think tank. Now, some of the projects that are currently ongoing in the consortium, we have launched the AI use case. We have also launched the AI incubator for youths, including women. We have for education, the AI Academy, and also the AI policy development, to name a few. So in relation to sports and AI, the consortium can further explore the provision of AI and sports in the area of research, capacity, policy, and also infrastructure, should there be consensus around these areas. So within the work of the consortium, we have not forgotten the key elements of youth and gender mainstreaming, which we are doing across all our working groups for inclusion. So, to conclude, I would say that it is without doubt that AI has a correlation to the development of the sports sector in the Commonwealth and contribution towards the sustainable development goals. AI has to be augmented, and if we augment AI effectively, it will lead towards the achievement of SDG 9, SDG 11, SDG 17, SDG 8, and SDG 10, just to name a few. So we, in the consortium, we welcome interested members to write to us if they would like to join, and we can together play a role and see how we can bring sports and AI issues in the consortium as well. Thank you.
Radhika, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the Commonwealth's commitment to AI and the opportunities for sport. I know by quoting the specific SDGs you mentioned, I know that many people in the room and online will be rushing to look up those specific SDGs, I'm sure. Anyway, now to that great moment of the result of the debate. Excellencies, honourable ministers, distinguished delegates, as you can see, our judges have now returned to the room. If I can just remind you who our judges are. We have Chris Jenkins, President of the Commonwealth Games Federation, and we have Aaron Smith, Coordinator for the Commonwealth Youth Sport for Development and Peace Network. Chris, Aaron, can I invite you to share with us the result of your deliberations? And you're welcome to come up on stage for this.
Excellencies, Deputy Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen. So it all started quite badly when we got in the room. We thought we had half an hour, and they said, we've got about 8 minutes. So, but anyway, we had a bit longer. So it's nice to see there are prizes. So that's always good. So, first of all, thank you so much to the panels, both of you. When we were talking, and thanks to Aaron, because Aaron and I were just chatting, we actually said it was really nuanced to start with. Quite sometimes there'd be an argument on the for, which you thought, actually that's against, and back and forwards. And I think that was the really exciting part of the debate for us as well. So looking at kind of both panels, let's start with the for. So I think what we really took on board was this great opportunity to accelerate, and there's a real need to accelerate because time is very short. So that came through really strongly. Also, I think the fact you can use AI to get that scale, to look for that systemic change around the Commonwealth. We really like the idea of co-creation, the manifesto, because we really see that as a way forward to basically looking at the governance, the ethics, just about every facet, to be honest, of AI, is how do we make this into something, or use this, because it's coming, it's here, into something that really helps sport. Also, I thought we really also liked the concept of quantifying what good sport does. And quite often, I've been in situations where you're putting a grant application in, it's like, give us your numbers. And sometimes you just don't have them. So I think that's really powerful again, and whether that's technology or AI, I don't know. But I thought that argument came over really well. Use of AI in education, very powerful, that came through. And it's that whole, I think, basis of scale and breadth around the world can get across the Commonwealth really quickly. Yes, there are risks, and the rewards are high. And I think that came through really clearly as well. So high stakes. So co-creation, we really that landed really well with us. Against, I guess, in any debate, you look at the topic, is it the answer? And that's the key word that's sitting in, that you guys really focused on as well. I think what also came through as you were talking, and Aaron and I were deliberating, is there was this concept that, yes, it's very commercial, it's highly commercial. I mean, billions, trillions of dollars will be both invested and come through in this particular sector. And then the argument is this a risk of slowing down delivering SDGs? Or you need that investment, you've got to commercialize for this to actually happen. So I think what came through really clearly there was, in a sense, the Commonwealth's AI Consortium initiative is, it's commercial, but we've got to be part of this. The risk of the digital divide, I mean, that comes through really clearly as well. I guess we were talking before this debate, yes, it's a big risk, but we're looking at very young people around the world. There could be a technology leap. So is this actually a real problem, or is this something, again, that the consortium and the Commonwealth can actually start to address as well? So we look through those arguments, and then I think the whole concept of sport, the connection, the standing on the field of play, that humanity, there's something magical about sport. If you could bottle it up, you would. It's a really powerful part of sport in everything we do, and the way humans interact with each other. So I guess AI is not replacing that, is it? It's amplifying it. So could AI create more connections? So I guess you want a conclusion. So, so when I stood in the front and said, what do we want from this, was to be enlightened. And I think, yes, we were enlightened. The power of AI, scale and scope, could be very powerful, could be divisive, but could also be an amazing way to be inclusive. Can amplify what's going on, can amplify the power of sport, the connections and the experience. And we know that we need to accelerate delivering on SDGs. And I think our conclusion is AI is a route to do that, but we're not convinced it's the answer. We've come down quite strongly is a very large part of the answer, and we agree with the proponents that you need a manifesto, you need a partnership, but we don't think it's the answer, so we find for the opponents. Thank you very much.
Wow. Great overview there, Chris. And congratulations to the winning team. Can I now invite the Deputy Secretary General and Ambassador to give the winning trophy to the winning team? And no one goes home empty-handed here, so we have medals for the 4 team as well.